Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 8. To be perfectly honest, I have no idea how this one will be like. Yes, we will make good progress, we will pretty much manage to plan out the entire steel production area, and by the end, the town will be ready to receive its first inhabitants. But, while I was recording this episode, I was a bit distracted, as I had the Kit Fox stream going in the background, showcasing the Steam version of Dwarf Fortress. I usually have something inconsequential to listen to when I'm recording, but this time, it was a bit more interesting than usual, so I might be a bit more scatterbrained. Anyways, let's get to it. I will keep prioritizing certain buildings in the town, but by the end, everything will be ready to go. Also, I did say in the last episode that I will see if I can convert this intersection to a version that wouldn't have rail tracks crossing each other. Unfortunately, while it was perfectly possible, the resulting shape of the tracks was, let's just say, not exactly family friendly, so I decided to let it go. Maybe when the station isn't this close to the junction, it will be doable, but it ended up looking way too much like a certain anatomical feature of the human male body. At this point, the town can be pretty much left alone until completion. I will still come back to it, but it is on the final stretch. Since we had time to kill, I decided to start planning the steel production district. We have both coal and iron right next to each other, so it's a perfect place to do it. This iron deposit was a bit poor, so I only managed to get about 50% yield out of it. Still, more than enough for our purposes. We can also continue upgrading the road leading to the town. And I really wanted this distribution center to be completed, so I gave it high priority as well. The coal patch was a bit more rich than the iron, so it got us a decent 60% yield in the end. Before we go any further, we need to sort out the processing infrastructure. Since they don't need all that many workers, I decided to go for 2 for each mine right away. First, we are going to split the coal coming out of the mine into 2 separate conveyor belts, each going to a processing plant. It's really refreshing to work with such a big empty area. The ability to stretch our legs makes planning so much easier. A small aggregate storage will be enough, I think. This will act as a small buffer, which will feed into the steel mill, and maybe a separate storage for train pickups in the future. And now the second processing center. This one was a bit finicky. Although the ghost image showed that it will place the conveyor belts on its own, in the end it didn't do so. It will take a bit of messing around to make it work. The most logical place for the main highway connection will be through the clothing factories. The bulk of the freight traffic will be done via trains, so we only really need to use trucks in the early days. This is what I meant earlier. Even though it said that the conveyor connections were possible, it didn't want to do them now. But we will make it work, don't worry. Yeah, just needed a bit of a new perspective on life. Making these roads reminded me of the old engineering rule. It's not about what you can add to a system, it's about what you can take away, and still have it work. Plus, having these paths so compact, it is much easier to place the bus stop in a central location. It shows that the mine is out of reach, but I'm fairly confident that it will be just fine once the footpaths are upgraded to gravel. All that's left is to place an elevated conveyor tower, and the coal facilities are ready to go. Just need to make sure to leave some room between it and the road, so the conveyor pillars can fit in. The iron will be pretty much the same. Mine feeds into a pair of processing facilities, both of which will dump their outputs into a small aggregate storage. This ghost image issue is a bit distracting, but not really an annoyance yet. Let's hope it doesn't become a pattern. There, that's what I like to see. We only need to make sure the road connection is facing the right way. A very simple, yet effective arrangement. Getting the footpaths to cooperate was a little tricky, but it all comes together great in the end. Maybe a 45-degree bus stop is in order. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the end result. They are reasonably close to each other to make it all work. Since there is no point having the housing ready until all the other services are up and running, I will just leave the apartments for last. Now, the steel mill itself is a bit of a tricky situation. The logical place for it was right in between the two mines. Unfortunately, it's completely unfeasible due to rough terrain. The amount of work it would require to make it doable is out of reach for us right now. Unless you're okay with watching a massive amount of dirt being moved by two small bulldozers. Yeah, I thought you wouldn't like that. But this little plateau looks like the perfect place. I will go for an outside storage straight away. In the last series, one of the early mistakes I made was that I kept using the steel mill's internal storage, pretty much for the entire run. Expanding that space is a tremendous help, both as a buffer for domestic use, and for the ability to sell steel in bigger quantities at once. Unfortunately, trying to use all three connections on one side of the open storage building is a no-go. I will try to make it work for a while, but I will give up eventually. My next idea was to use the factory connection on the other side, but that will only result in a different set of problems. The more eagle-eyed among you might be able to see the issue I'll be facing in a little bit. So far so good, right? We are getting dangerously close to being in debt, so we better take out another small loan. This is where I was starting to encounter the issues I hinted at earlier. We will need two conveyor belt connections, so we can fuel the steel mill with iron and coal. We better not forget about the high voltage power connection this building needs. This ended up requiring quite a bit of distance from the open storage, cutting the available space for other stuff way too much. Yeah, there is simply no way I can ever fit in 2 conveyor towers in this space. Now, technically speaking, I believe a single one would have been enough, but I still prefer to use separate lines for each resource. We get a much better throughput for them this way. Routing the power poles through the other side did help a little, but the extra space still was not enough. Things are coming along nicely. While we won't see people in the town today, I am fairly confident it will be one of the first things we will do in the next episode. I am real close to giving up on this arrangement. And this is it. Even though we managed to squeeze the towers in with the belts just fine, connecting them to the road network is a practical impossibility. We don't have access to helicopters yet, so this is not a viable solution unfortunately. My next attempt was to move the open storage back as far as it will go, but as it turns out, it was already as far away from the steel mill as it was allowed by the factory connection. Yeah, we are back to square one. In the end, I just put it in the back. Still a perfectly viable option. In fact, I think it just might be the better alternative. You might have seen that the steel mill has a built-in train platform. If we route the trains this way, we can place some extra rail switches, so it looks like it's part of the rail network. I doubt we will ever use it, but it's still a good cosmetic addition. Anyways, the Estergrad hospital is finished. I quickly bought 2 ambulances for it. Should be enough at the start. With the open storage moved to the other side, we have all the space we could ever hope for. Let's just buy a couple fire engines for the new fire station, and I'll be right back. Might as well sort out the fuel deliveries too. There are quite a few buildings that need it. At this point, only the apartments and the bus construction office remain. But I'll be too distracted by the steel mill to really finish the town, but it will be real close by the end. That's the iron taken care of. Now the coal. This will require a couple extra towers, but nothing excessive. That should do it. We still need to take care of the road network though. It's a bit steep, but not the kind of steep that requires a serpentine road. Okay, we better put a stop to this. We are not ready to start building this place. Far from it. At least we have paved roads all the way to the bridge. That's something, I guess. At this point, we can start paving one side of the main street in Estergrad. Look, one of the apartment blocks is done. A pretty big milestone if you ask me. Let's sort out those purely decorative driveways. They are just textures, their only purpose is to fill out the empty space in front of the building. As usual, I will struggle to find the right place for the corner, but I think the end result will be good enough. Yeah, that will do nicely. And with that, we have 3 neat little squares we can fill with some decorations. I decided to make doubly sure that all the steel-related stuff are paused. To nobody's surprise, the biggest money sink since we started has been steel. But to start making our own, we will need a lot of cash at hand, so for now we are going to concentrate on starting up our clothing industry. That should be the thing that will really get us going. Also, ever since we started using both customs houses, the oil deliveries started wasting time queuing. Now we have some oil built up in the storage. Maybe if we add this extra tanker truck to the line, it should help speed up our exports. We just need to make sure it's empty, so unfortunately we had to dump 12 tons of bitumen. We still need to sort out the power on the island. Should be pretty straightforward. We have 3 outlets remaining on the transformer. Plus, we will need another one for the industrial district, so I think we will be able to feed the clothing factories from that one, which will free up another outlet for the town. Unfortunately, the hospital was just barely out of range for the first substation. No big deal, we will need more than one anyways. As usual, we ended up with the cable split into 2 segments. Let's see if we can merge them into one. That's much better. Well, except for this part, where the cables stick through the ground. Let's fix that real quick. Alright, now we are ready to build. I was tempted to set up a temporary commuter line for the fire station from the border, but we are so close to the finish line, I think I will risk it. Before we finish, we have a couple more things to do. First, we have some more asphalt textures to place. Might as well put in the decorations. I was thinking, maybe a couple playgrounds for starters. This little monument would have been great, but I want to have a footpath connected to the finished one, and I didn't like that it was curving to meet up with the existing intersection. But this place will be just fine for it. Maybe a bit premature, but I decided to add the gravel texture right now. The rest can be filled up with some greenery, and we can call it done. I will deal with the other one later, I think. We are very close to the end, and we have one more thing to accomplish. Before I get to it, let's quickly take care of this one. It still needs an asphalt foundation, so it can look like it's part of the university. Yeah, this will do just fine. Okay, no more procrastination. We have a delivery system to sort out. I was really tempted to use the W50E8 trucks, but I think the T135 makes more sense. First, we need to set the border as the source. Keep in mind that this is temporary. Once we have trains, they will deal with this, but for now, we have to do it with trucks. We will also need a couple freezer trucks for the time being. Not ideal, but can't be helped. We should also tell the warehouse not to accept anything other than consumer goods, with emphasis on food, since that's the thing we need the most of. For now, the warehouse will have both pickup and drop-off jobs set up in the distribution office. As I've said, once we have trains, this office will only do pickups. And that should be it. We still need to wait for the power to be turned on, and maybe buy a couple police and secret police vehicles, but that's about it. Oh yeah, and we will also need to move the buses to the local construction office. But other than that, we should be good to go. I will double check everything between episodes, I'm a bit paranoid like that. The next construction focus will be the clothing industry, but as you might have seen, it is pretty much half done already. I am also tempted to pave the different driveways in the town now, before I let people in. Especially the ones going to the shop. Once people live there, we will need to ensure continuous supply, and upgrading the roads at that point might hinder that. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, then leaving a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. If you are more in the donating mood, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description, where you can buy me a glass of water. I don't really drink coffee. Thank you for your support, and until next time, I will see you later.